Good morning, everybody. It's middle of June and it is going to be a hot one today. So I'm out very early with the dogs because they're calling for 40-degree temperatures today with humidity. Yikes. Welcome to Southern Ontario. Welcome to climate change. The last time we chatted, I was up in Thunder Bay hanging out with the dogs and doing some skateboarding, and I showed you our big battery setup that is now powering the air conditioner for the van, and it has been so crucial to moving forward safely with my dogs at lessons, because the way my day flows, I may have a couple of lessons where I need the dogs, I may have a consultation or a lesson where I don't need the dogs and they have to stay in the van during that lesson. So in the past, I've either had to fire up our gas generator, which doesn't work in terms of, like, I've had people come over and ask me to turn off the generator, and maybe I'm parked down the street from my client's house on the side of the road and I'm not going to leave a generator just sitting on the side of the road running. So this has finally given me a foolproof way to keep the dogs cool if I have a lesson in the middle of my day where I don't need the dogs. And that's really what the purpose was. So I didn't have to drive home and drop the dogs off and then come home and pick them up for the next lesson. And today's going to be hot, so I've already reached out to some of my later afternoon appointments and discussed the possibility of having to reschedule today. We're going to keep an eye on the weather, but 40 degrees, you can't have a dog out in training for 40 degrees. The humans can't pay attention. It's just too much. And climate change in general is one of my biggest concerns right now for the future of my business. Like, what does my dog training business look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when like these heat events are becoming more severe and they're lasting longer? I don't know what that means for my business. My wife Christine and I have also chatted about in the next few years trying to purchase a home and a little bit of a property that has like a workshop or a garage, so that in the really hot months of summer or the really brutal cold months of winter, I can set up a little training facility inside. And that's not ideal. I don't want to train inside. I don't want to have a facility. That's not something I was ever looking for. But if I had something like that, at least when there's a heat event happening, I could just tell the client, look, come to my place. We're going to train in my little facility. It's air conditioned, and although not ideal to train inside, like, because you're training in sort of a vacuum, right? There's no distractions. It's very sort of sterile, but that's better than canceling and rescheduling all year. And this year in particular, I've already faced a record number of cancellations for a couple of reasons. I had about 30 different cancellations so far this year due to COVID. So clients that had COVID and had to cancel. Also because of the ever increasing amount of dogs out there and dog ownership, I've been booking so far out. At one point I was booking almost 10 weeks out, which led to a ton of cancellations, because as the appointment draws closer, people have either learned to live with the behavior. Some people just emailed me and said, look, I couldn't wait, I rehomed the dog. So being that busy doesn't help me. I don't want to be that busy. I'm overwhelmed. And it doesn't help the clients that are reaching out to me because they can't get in. So it's been a difficult year so far for a number of reasons. And now the heat coming in just sort of compounds all of that, because now obviously I'm facing the next 3 months. Whenever these heat events happen, I may have to cancel and reschedule and move clients again. So certainly a bit of a bummer. And just as a side note to that, I've talked about this a number of times in my videos, but when it's this hot, some things you're going to do with your dog. You're going to walk your dog early in the morning. You're going to walk your dog late in the evening. If you're out for an extended period of time, you're going to bring lots of water for your dog. And I carry a spray bottle so that I can periodically spray the dogs and soak them down. So really the spray bottle is the container for my water. That's what I give the dogs a drink out of. But I can also use it to spray them down and keep them cool on these summer days. That's all we can do, man. You got to be careful and watch the pavement. The asphalt gets very, very, very hot in the summer. So before we go any further, let's address the elephant on my head. I did get a haircut. 5 years. just about 5 years without a haircut. It was just time for a change, you know? Just every once in a while in your life, you just go, oh, I gotta take a left turn. And yeah, it feels great. Nice and cool for the summer. And I wore my hair tied back 99% of the time. So at some point I just said, why do I have long hair if I never wear it down? And it's so hot in the summer. So I trimmed it all off and it feels great. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is the dog training industry, like the dog training world, right? And that includes everybody. That includes like vets and groomers and trainers. That includes everything from agility and obedience to dog sports like IPO, what used to be called Schutzen, like, you know, bite work and obedience and tracking and all of these high-end dog sports. It includes everything. So when I'm talking about the dog industry, pet stores, like you name it, like the whole thing. And I try and keep it all a little bit at arm's length. So in terms of moving forward as a dog trainer, I pay very close attention to new techniques that people are talking about. Just anything to do with the dog training world, I'm open. Let's see what's going on. I will experiment with different techniques and different tools. I pay attention to the top trainers that are out there and what they're doing and what they're developing and what they're working on and how things are going. So I can promise all of you and future clients and current clients that every single day I am striving to be the best dog trainer I can. I just want to be the best trainer that I can possibly be. I'm always open to learning. I never think I know it all. I never think that what I'm doing right now will be the same thing I'm doing 6 months down the road if somebody can show me some better way of using a tool or doing something. So I'm always open to learning and trying new things. But as somebody that is a trainer that works and spends 60 to 70 hours a week in the industry doing this stuff, when I have some time off, I just need a mental break. So I can't just be in this and submersed in it 60 hours a week, 70 hours a week with clients, and then on my time off, spend all of it like studying dog training books and watching what other trainers are doing. So I do some of that, absolutely. But this isn't my world. So even as a dog trainer, my life does not revolve around dogs and dog training every second of my day. There's lots of things I'm passionate about outside of this. I've talked about being a musician. You've seen me take my dogs to the skate park because I love skateboarding. I like cycling. I like inline skating. So there's lots of activities and hobbies and different things I'm passionate about. And I do believe in sort of having a well-rounded life. So I make time for all of those things that I care about and that I'm passionate about. But I do pay attention to what's happening in the dog world. But there's so many aspects to the dog world that just have no allure for me whatsoever. Things like conformation. And I have nothing against conformation. It's a beauty contest, right? Like where people go and show their dogs. It's a beauty contest for specific breeds. But the beauty is like we set that level of beauty, right? Like whoever, the AKC or whoever's running this is saying a bulldog should look like this or a spaniel should look like this. And if it doesn't meet the breed standards, it's not good enough. What do I care about that, man? It's a beauty contest. I don't care about any of that. I play around and do some agility with my dogs for fun. I have zero desire to go and compete in agility with my dogs. Like, it doesn't interest me. So there's a lot of the dog training world that is great, and I think it's awesome, and I like that there's all these little niches for people to get into. Like if you want to take your dog dock diving, you can get into that as a sport and as a competition. You could do obedience competitions. So there's lots of stuff that you can get into with your dog if you want to, but overall a lot of that stuff just doesn't have any draw for me. I just don't care about it. Don't care about conformation. I like agility, but I don't care about competing. I teach obedience. I don't compete in obedience. I have been a decoy for a dog training club, like the guy that wears the bite sleeves and the bite suit and all that. And after doing it for several months, it didn't interest me. It wasn't my thing. I tried it, and I've tried a lot in dog training, but a lot of this stuff, just not my bag. Now, the big thing that I did want to address is this. There are all types of little pockets of people that get along, right? Like trainers that share the same philosophy, can have a discussion together and get along. But generally speaking, my experience in the dog training community has been a negative one. In general, the dog training community is very, very divided, much like modern politics. And I find overall it's a very toxic environment that I keep at arm's length for my own mental health. I have had very, very terrible and nasty messages and comments on videos. Let's say I'm just working with my dogs and they have an e-collar on. I've had people say all kinds of horrible things to me just because my dogs are wearing an e-collar. They don't know how I use this tool, but clearly if they're that full of hatred for me just because there's an e-collar on my dog, they're actually full of hatred for that training tool. And that's fine to have an opinion on the training tool. But what's not fine is to bombard me with hateful messages because you don't like the types of tools I use. An e-collar is a completely legal tool to use, and if you don't like it, then don't use it, and don't seek out a trainer that uses that tool. But there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of hatred, and even people, so recently I listened to a podcast between two of the top rated e-collar trainers in the industry, right? And they spent 2.5 hours arguing over the right way to use the e-collar. Like, these two agreed that an e-collar is the right tool and vehemently disagreed on how to use it. So even within the people that agree on the same tools to use, they cannot agree on the right way, or what's considered the right way to them to use that tool. And there's just too much hatred, and there's too much bullying, and there's too much negativity in the dog world, and I get it. We're dealing with living, breathing creatures here, which is going to create a lot of passion behind these opinions. So I understand that. But I need to keep it at arm's length, because I can't take that kind of toxicity in my life. Anyway, that is my take on the dog training world and why I just try and stay a little bit out of it. I mean, I pay attention, as I said, to what's new and what's happening. So I watch the industry, but I'm like a wallflower. I'm just off to the side, paying attention, watching what's going on, and I don't want to get involved. I don't want to be on the dance floor, because the dance floor is too damn negative. Anyway, that's my take on everything. And I'm sure all of you, any of you that have just spent 5 minutes trying to Google a solution to your dog problem have realized that it is very confusing, full of conflict, full of different opinions, and people are very passionate about these opinions, which leads to a lot of just hate against the other side, whatever side that isn't your side. It's sad, but it's the reality, and more it's just becoming the reality of everything in life. The culture we've created, and the fact that if you don't agree with somebody, you can just rip them a new one, you know? So anyway, I will continue to strive to be the best trainer that I can be for all of you, my current and potential clients. And outside of that, let's leave the negativity and hate behind. I'll see you in the next video.